You're going to ask me about why I was wearing a towel?
What the hell's going on with the towel, Coach?
Gotta let that thing breathe sometimes, huh, Coach?
Oh, jeez.
I got my lucky underwear, which I knew I had to wear into the press room. So I wanted to preserve the pants and my underwear. I didn't want them soaking wet. Then I had to go sit on the seat. My ass is wet. I didn't want to do that.
We're getting a lot of information here.
Light it.
The Triple Option is presented by Wendy's. Get yourself a $4 Biggie Bite, $6 Biggie Bag, or an $8 Biggie Bundle now at Wendy's. Welcome to the Triple Option. Urban Meyer, Mark Ingram II, Rob Stone here with you. Spring ball is underway, and Coach Cignetti is not a fan of certain footwear in Bloomington. We're going to talk college basketball as well with one of the great minds, one of the great voices in all of it, Jay Bilas, and two-time NCAA champion head coach Dan Hurley from UConn is going to join us in just a moment. As always, we love it when you can chime in with your thoughts, your requests, your likes, your shares, all that goes with it. But man, let's get right to ball and let's go to beautiful Glastonbury, Connecticut. We bring in the head coach of the University of Connecticut Huskies, Dan Hurley, kind enough to join us right now. Man, there are so many things we want to get to with you, Coach. So I'm so curious about what your phone looked like after that win yesterday. We're recording this Monday night. So there's the video of your mom and her mouthing certain words when the bucket went in, right? We got the dude who blew out his Achilles jumping up, cheering for you guys. Take me some of the shares that have come your way the last couple hours.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with my mom. You know, that probably explains a lot of things about me, you know, behaviors and language, impulsiveness at times. I would just say, probably not another game like that. Just even the two championship teams. I mean, we played so great in the tournament. We didn't play any close games. We just kind of dominated. And so in the run of success we've had the last, 3-4 years, we haven't really had a game like that where, we had to kind of fight back and then make a defensive play and an offensive play to win a game and beat a program like Duke in an Elite Eight game. That's a big spot. That's a big game. You're in BC, UConn, Duke, and that was as good a win. So I'm bad with the phone to begin with. I hate it. I leave voice memos mostly, and I try to talk to people. So the phone, it's not that busy.
I sent a text to Coach before the game, and I said, swing effing hard. And he made it clear that the team was going to swing hard. So they make the shot. They go up by 2, the free throw. And I think you were probably going to try to foul to get hands on people. And then I know as a coach, you just try to practice every possible scenario. But at some point, you got to make plays. Take us through the final 5-6 seconds there, or actually final 10 seconds, what happened, and how you coached that.
Yeah, so, I mean, we ended up using too much time on the offensive possession. Like it took us, we executed badly versus they changed their defense the last possession. When we had the ball. So we ended up using 20 seconds of that shot clock down 3 before Demery got fouled, and then he made 1 of 2. But that was we handled that offensive possession badly, but at least Demery drove it, got to the foul line, and, made 1 of 2. For us there, they had 2 free throw shooters on the court that it would have made sense to foul, that, Sarr and Big Pat, and they were both on the court. So we wanted to try to rotate up as aggressively as possible. And if we had a chance, to foul Sarr or foul Big Pat when they got the ball, let's foul them. Otherwise, the other guys, let's try to get a trap or 2, because the best way you're going to win right there is a deflection. You got to hope that they just start spraying the ball around and you get your hand on it. Because it was going to be pretty tough. You let that ball enter there and maybe it gets down to 7 seconds and Boozer keeps it. And now he's at the foul line. You're in big trouble. So you got to create a turnover. And so when Sarr threw it in, we actually wanted to foul him on the pass back to him, but we made a mistake. Like we were hugging, and we didn't get there in time to foul him. And then he threw the ball to the other boozer, and he panicked a little bit. We made a play on the ball.
Do you finish like in football? We finish during training camp. I think most teams probably do it. You just finish different scenarios. Is that a big thing in college basketball? Before you go off the court, you try to hit a situation with the group, and
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us, it's probably more, not as much pressure like that. More like execution to get a two, execution to get a 3-point shot. I don't think a lot of us probably practice against pressure as much because there's so few teams that actually press today because there's so much more skill on the court. So, but yeah, I mean, in terms of who you want to foul and, like where you want to keep the ball out of or certain players' hands and, you definitely do it. It's called like winning time for us. It's like 12 minutes of every shoot around day of the game. Situational plays, offense, defense.
before I turn it over to Mark, one last thing is I've been following the Hurley family for a long time. Your mom is my favorite Hurley by far, dude. That's it. She's made it. She's it.
How, when you look at Bob and me and my dad, I mean, how she's done it. 3 cavemen, man, just like 3, just total cavemen.
Alpha female. Alpha female. No, but Coach, man, I want to talk about your boy Braylon Mullins for a second, man. He himself said that he was rattled against UCLA in round 2. Even in the game versus Duke, I mean, he was 0 for 4 from behind the arc. Your sharpshooter, he 0 for 4, but he hits the one, when it counts. Hits the one when y'all needed it the most. As a great coach like yourself, been a coach of the year, been a 2-time national championship head coach, how did you keep the confidence of Braylon Mullins going where he's able to capitalize when the moment mattered the most?
Oof, man, I'm telling you, he comes from great stock. Being an Indiana boy, I don't know, Midwest values or whatever, but he's got blue collar parents. He's got a blue collar high school coach that wasn't afraid to coach him in high school. His dad coached him in high school. So he had multiple men that were, setting a pretty high standard for him every single day. So he came into the program just with a lot of good habits, a lot of maturity, a lot of humility. He's not a social media guy. So like, he's not reacting to, all that external, nor is he in this for likes and followers. The guy's just like a Indiana ball player. He wants to just like shoot hoops and hang out with his girlfriend, like simple guy. So he's easy to coach. And he's got incredible talent. Like we ask him to do, like, to be a winning player. Like we didn't develop the offense around him and just let him, like rip shots and play for for a draft spot. Like, this guy has been a two-way player the whole year, like good defensive player. He's shooting slump late in the year, but he was at one point in the year shooting over 40 from 3. And the guy, defends and rebounds and he don't say boo. So this time of year, you're just trying to, convince these guys, brainwash them that they're about to go on a run. It's all, we practice hard as anyone could possibly practice, like our preparation and the practice standards prepares these guys well for the game. So, a guy like that, you're telling him he's about to go on a big run in March and that you're the best shooter I've ever coached.
Hey, what was the halftime messaging and tone? You guys, I think it was 1 of 11 from 3 and down double digits. And I'm curious how you handle that, how the players were handling themselves as they were walking in there in DC.
How did I handle it in front of the players? I thought I handled it well. When I got around the assistants, I probably didn't handle it that good.
All right, but what was the messaging to Murray and the rest of the assistants?
I mean, like, if we got to get some guys playing well, and and we're not guarding. Like we're playing, we're guarding them with like a little bit too much reverence and respect. I mean, I know it's Duke. I know these guys are NBA players and elite level, but UConn gets after people. So I thought we just did more things defensively, just getting in there as a staff, like let's be more aggressive, defensively. And we were able to create a lot of good turnovers, and that led to some easy baskets. I think we were at one point, we were 1 for 17 from three, and we're down 7. So and that's because we were +8 in the turnover margin. We had 13 offensive rebounds. And then usually we're one of the worst teams in the country at like free throw line disparity. Second half we won the free throw line. So, once we finally started making some shots, we were able to walk them down. They looked tired. I think St. John's, the seeding helped us. St. John's, that game was a war. And not that we didn't have a war with Michigan State, but, St. John's is a unique team to play against. Playing 2 days later after dealing with those guys, that's a bear. But so it felt like down the stretch, they looked tired. I mean, Boozer's eye was all mangled. They looked tired. So I would say at halftime, calm. But if we don't wake up, these dudes are going to smoke us, and this is over.
So when you say that, it's really intriguing to me. When you say it was a war, when you in the college football, you face a line of scrimmage team, your team just gets beat to hell. When you say that in basketball, what do you mean? Like St. John, what did they, just a physical or what?
Yeah, all the battle points, like all those battle points, like screenings, screening.
Is that coaching in college? Is that like a style of play in basketball, or is it just a person?
Yeah, no, it is. It's a style. I think it's what, certain coaches are known for, the way that their teams play, like Coach Izzo, Coach Pitino. Like when you play those teams, yeah, I mean, they run good things on offense, but you're not going into it saying, oh, these guys are super clever and tricky. They're gonna pressure you. They're gonna blow up screens. They're gonna move you on screens. If you're the team setting it and they're trying to get through it, they're moving the screen or shoulder. Like they're not getting moved ever. At the point of blockouts, post ups, like finishing at the rim. Like when you play, those teams that play with that level of physicality, relentlessness. But it's so I think we're in a heck of a region, man. That was like 4 teams that were like Final Four worthy, all playing in a Sweet 16 and Elite 8.
Coach, man, I'm not trying to rain on nobody parade on this show, man, but out of all 3 of us, I'm the only one that had UConn in the Final Four. I'm just going to tell you the truth. I'm the only one that had UConn in the Final Four, man. So big love to my boy. You know what I mean? He's real, recognized real. You know what I mean? But no, man, just a great coach, man. 2-time national champions. What did you learn on your last 2 previous title runs that you have applied to your approach this season?
Oof. That's a good question. No, I haven't been asked that.
See,
what do I know? I mean, I would say, I would say for me, just there's a certain level of confidence that you have going into Final Four week, where you know what the week's going to look like. The media responsibilities, the amount of attention that gets kind of taken away. It's really easy for your team at the Final Four to get separated because there's so much media and there's so much family around, and there's all these interlopers that are now coming into your tribe, and it's like, so you're just trying to keep all these people out and keep the team as focused and together as much as possible, because the week tries to separate you. And then for me, it just helps knowing that, we've won this tournament twice. I mean, like, getting to the Final Four is great, but winning there, and you got to win 4 games is hard as hell. But to win the Natty, you got to win 6. Like, it's hard to win 6 in a row versus the best teams in the country. But at UConn, we know we could do it because we've done it.
Final Four week, when do you head to Indy?
We go out Wednesday, and I think they moved up. I think maybe my ops guy is lying to me because I always try to get the last flight out. I like to get as much time in my house as possible before I hit the road. So, but last year, or the last time we were in this, we got to Phoenix at like 3:30 in the morning because I waited to the last second, and we had mechanical problems. And then I told the players that the NCAA was against us, and I used that and fuel. Sorry.
Any fuel you can, any way to fuel that team, Coach.
And you've had experience now, so is it about getting them fresh, or is it that fine line between let's get ready, and then do you have someone else working on the other two teams, like some younger coaches getting ready for in case you win the Saturday?
So it definitely with the practices now, Coach. I learned this. The diminishing returns
Right.
of over practicing, and I did that when I was younger and dumber than I am now. So I think you find that sweet spot having coached in the tournament of exactly what we want to do practice wise, and 23 and 24 what we liked. And then these matchups benefit us in a sense that we played Illinois earlier in the year. Obviously, it was a long time ago, but we got a pretty good familiarity. We shared the court with them, and then and we played Arizona earlier in the year. We played them at home in a war that we came up a little short in, but we didn't have Reed or Mullins in that game. So two of the teams we've played, so we got a head start on that. And then obviously Michigan's a monster, and I've watched them throughout the year just because I love hoops, and I mean they're a problem too.
Coach, coming off the high of the moment, right? A moment that we're going to be talking about for generations in March Madness lore. And then you travel home and you have your first practice today on Monday. What did you put into how you wanted to message that practice, and how quickly you wanted to move on or keep leaning into that magical moment you had?
Yeah, so we let the boys enjoy it today. We played the max amount of games. We got to the conference championship. That didn't go the way we wanted, but we maxed out the games we could play all the way through our conference tournament. These guys are 4 games into this one, so today we let them enjoy it. Get some rest. I know the massage therapists were busy and they were doing all the recovery. And we just talked about the week, but just we got in at around 3 a.m. Feel like the boys needed a mental break. Just a quick meeting to talk about the travel and the week. And then, we'll start with film in the morning tomorrow on Illinois, and start the week off probably a little bit lighter, live rep wise. Thursday we'll go probably pretty hard with some live reps, and then Fridays like you just the engine, you're just warming up the engine.
Coach,
Let's
man,
go back. Go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead, Stone.
I want to go back to the post-game locker room again. I remember a couple years ago,
Towel?
the Big East. What's that?
You're gonna ask me about why I was wearing a towel?
So
Oh,
I
man.
remember the Big East tournament a couple years ago. Ed Cooley had a towel wrapped around him because he split his pants. And then I see this towel on you, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm saying at the same time, what in the hell is happening? And also, this makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So what the hell is going on with the towel, Coach?
I'm just I'm quirky.
Gotta let that thing breathe sometimes, huh, Coach?
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, man. You know what? I'm like quirky, man. I got some of the things with like just wearing the same thing. When
The
you're
sport
winning.
coat, right? All
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff.
So I got the suit. I got that whole thing. So the suit, the dress shirt, belt, shoes, socks, and my drawers, my underwear. With the dragons on them. They're 18-1 in NCAA tournament games, right? So my only loss was the Florida loss last year, which we played pretty well, and so so there were a couple things. You're going to get soaked. I wanted to preserve the suit because it's starting to fall apart. I got this suit back when I was coaching at Rhode Island in Providence at a tailor, and the suit is falling apart. It's turning a total, I don't want to curse. I get in trouble for that too. So, and the shoes are old. They're really, really old. So that stuff is fragile that I'm wearing. So I didn't want to get wet. Plus then I got my lucky underwear, which I knew I had to wear into the press room. So I wanted to preserve the pants and my underwear. I didn't want them soaking wet. Then I had to sit on the seat. My ass is wet. I didn't want to do that. So I just said, let me just go do this. But then the underwear, they were wet from the game anyway, because you're sweating.
Right.
We're getting a lot of information here.
You have no idea how much you sweat, how much a basketball coach sweats during a game. After a game, people come up to you, pat you on the back. It's like, oh man. Should have did that.
So are the clothes in good shape? Are they in good hands?
Yeah.
They're gonna make it to Indy, right?
Yeah. There's a good dry cleaner in Glastonbury. He's got to turn it around though, quicker than the last time.
My last question, Coach, is, you're an intense cat, and have you had to alter your, this? You keep hearing about the new wave of guys can leave and quit and move on and transfer. Have you had to adjust your style of coaching?
It's funny. It's not with the coach. It's not with the players or the team or the staff. It's more of the public. It's more how the public reacts to whatever they see from me in a moment, whatever context they have for it. So yeah, I mean, but not the players. I mean, we still get guys here that want me to coach, come to UConn because they're going to get coached hard. They're going to get pushed to the max. They're going to be in a locker room with other like-minded men that want to win and become NBA players or whatever the best they could be. Like we get good families that, for the most part, they're not helicoptering around and, kind of not letting us do our job. So no, I mean, for me, it's more of how the public reacts. Like, like to I don't know, the fight, the desperation, how hard I coach. I don't know. When I was growing up, it was just coaches coached hard, and it just in basketball, I guess there's not as many coaches that coach the game as hard to win the game. They're more seated.
Man, Coach, man, I just want to talk to you, man, because you got juice, man. If I was hooping, I'd like to come play for you, because any coach that's going to run up and headbutt the ref and just get in his face like that, like, hey, tell me what happened there, Coach. Like, what you told him? What you told him when you was up there like that? Like, what's up?
Yeah. So Roger and all the officials are very different. I mean, their personalities are different. The way they work the way that you work together in a game, and just I've got a great compatibility with Roger. Roger is one of the best refs, ever in college. And, he's got this way about him where, like, if you're going too far, he'll flash you that look like I'm close to teeing you. But then he doesn't hold on to that the rest of the game. Like he'll then start talking to you again. And, he just has got just such a kind of a calming personality. I know that sounds crazy, but it doesn't ever feel adversarial with him. So really at that point in the game, we had it won, and he's such an easy guy to work with during the game that I thought he was coming over to chest bump me to celebrate the shot, because it's not like that for me with him, like my experience with him has been, we haven't won every game. I haven't agreed with every call, but so that was in no way was that like me and a ref that I had been at their throat the whole game. Like other points of the game where I had my arm around them, walking like out of the timeout, we were cracking jokes and laughing. With that situation, now the one at Marquette, when I was on my man's neck, screaming into his neck, like, yeah, I mean, that was a guy that's like coming right up to the line and losing his mind. But that was more like the emotion of the shot. And this is a cool ass ref that, I just like was.
Were you guys sharing the moment together?
No, he was just coming up to tell me, yo, it's 0.3.
Oh,
I think there's going to be 0.3 or 0.4 on the clock is what he was saying to me.
okay.
And I was still so hyped from the shot going in that I was like, like anyone would have walked up on me right there.
Yeah.
I was just, because he came over so fast, and I was just like, like how hard we had to fight in that game, just because we were shooting so bad and but how hard we fought just to give ourselves a chance to be able to them make a mistake or us make a play. There was a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot, man.
It was awesome,
I saw and I felt real joy, like genuine human joy from you when that shot went in.
Yeah.
Me and my wife erupted in the house. We said, "Oh,
yeah,
hey,
everywhere,
turned up everywhere, yeah,
everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Everyone knows. I mean, how much we put into this. I mean, we start in June. We start in June. We go 11 months a year. You're going 6 or 7 days a week. 11 months a year. And then when you're not doing it, you're thinking about it. Like when you're not actually recruiting or coaching, or you're in the shower thinking about it. You're thinking about it before you go to bed. I mean, this is our obsession, like everyone involved with it. So and then when you go back to back, you win it. Then you have a down year. You're out in the round of 32, and you don't go to the Final Four, and you know what the Final Four feels like. You're like, and now you're about to experience the Final Four again and give yourself a chance to maybe win another national championship.
You talk about your quirkiness, right? You admit it. You talk about your superstitions. Are there any Indianapolis superstitions you have, something that's unique to this trip that you're about to take?
Yes, because we play Butler. We play Butler.
Yep.
So
Yeah, Hinkle.
Same restaurants, and we've won those games. So we're just gonna end up in those same restaurants.
St. Elmo's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
St.
How do we
Elmo's
feel about the horseradish sauce at St.
It's
Elmo's?
nice. I mean, especially in the winter, it's nice. When you got a little cold or something.
It heats you up.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff.
And that nose running.
So yeah, we'll stick like the biggest things the ones that drive me nuts are like what uniforms are we wearing? Like that's the stuff that makes me crazy because I only want to wear the uniform that we wore in the last game that we won. You know what I mean? Like so, and these guys, they got light gray. They got Nike probably has sent us 10 different uniforms. We only wear like 2 or 3 of them because like I'm not the type of coach to pull out like some red camouflage uniform and then you get your ass kicked and then you look like a bozo. You know what I mean? So I don't want to do that. So I think we're wearing though. I think because we're the higher seed in the first game, I think we get to wear the Connecticut whites, which I think we've won like 13 or 14 in a row in the Connecticut whites. The Connecticut, the classics.
Yeah.
Not UConn, Connecticut.
Yeah, the old school.
Sir.
I get it.
Awesome.
Coach Hurley, what a pleasure. We
Thanks
know how
for joining
busy
us,
you are.
brother.
Man,
Blessing.
Boy, I tell you what, the 3 of us got a lot of floor burns for you, right? We would be happy to play for a coach like you. So, Dan, congratulations on everything. Best of luck on your trip to Indianapolis. UConn, UConn. Oh, those fans are so beautifully arrogant.
You see it.
Yeah, you got it, baby.
You see it.
That's right.
They're your people. Dan Hurley, head coach, University of Connecticut. Thanks so much for joining us. Coming up next on the Triple Option, presented by Wendy's. Coach Cignetti is doing Coach Cignetti things already this spring at Indiana.
Light it.
Guys, Wendy's really outdid themselves with these new Biggie deals at $4, $6, $8. The new Biggie deals are bigger and biggier than ever. And I know what you're thinking. How could the Biggie get even bigger and better?
These new Biggie deals are perfect, Rob, because you get to choose between the $4 Biggie Bites, the $6 Biggie Bag, or the $8 Biggie Bundle. If you're feeling something snacky, you can get the $4 Biggie Bites with a JBC and a 4-piece nugget. Feeling something medium? Get yourself a $6 Biggie Bag with JBC, 4-piece nuggets, a small soft drink, and a junior fry. If you want to go full Biggie, you can get the $8 Biggie Bundle with your choice of 2 sandwiches, a small soft drink, and a junior fry, Coach.
So the choice is yours for a pretty biggie deal. Got to be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Single items at regular price. Prices may be higher in Alaska, California, and Hawaii. Welcome back to the Triple Option presented by Wendy's. Urban, Mark, Rob back here with you. It is now time to sound off. The defending national champion Indiana Hoosiers, they absolutely crushed it in the transfer portal again, and that includes adding Michigan State wide receiver Nick Marsh, who made quite the impression in his first spring practice in Bloomington.
I didn't love those gold shoes he came out in today. You learned what getting your ass ripped is all about. I don't know if that happened very often in Michigan State. That was before practice started. That was a wake-up call. But no, he's really worked hard. Done a great job for us.
So the beef was that he came rolling in, Mark, in gold shoes. And Coach Sig was not having the gold shoes on his new wide out from East Lansing.
Gold cleats?
Gold cleats.
I mean, whatever. I mean, you got to go out there and ball, like, you know.
Look good, feel good, play good.
Hey, man, come on. Ain't nothing wrong with the gold cleats. That's a little drip. That's a little swag you got to have. You feel me?
That's old school, Mark, right there.
Hey, yeah, it is. It is.
Everybody look alike.
Yeah, Coach Saban
I'm not
wouldn't
sure
have
you can
loved it
do
either.
that anymore.
Coach Saban wouldn't have loved it either, but that's just the type of cloth that Kurt's cut from. You know what I mean? He don't want nobody standing out too much. But, man, like I said, I'm a big fan. I'm a big advocate of Coach Cignetti, man. And whatever he's doing there, it's working. So you got to go in. You got to buy in.
Do you think that might turn off some young kids, some recruits? Like, hey, man, I want to wear my gold cleats. This is going to be a problem for you. Then maybe this isn't my home. Or we overthinking it?
Maybe, but that's probably the kids he don't want in his program. You know,
Bingo.
I think if some gold cleats is going to deter you from the main mission of being the best football player you could be on the best football team that you want to be a part of with the best coaching staff who's going to develop you. If you don't want to be that, then you want to worry about gold cleats and all the other details. You know what I mean? Then maybe this ain't the place for you. So,
Coach, how do you think Sig handled it?
Yeah, I mean, that is so old school, and I was the same way. Everybody looks alike, and it's the way it is. I had all kinds of rules, and then I worked for a guy named Sonny Lubick, and he's like, you know, fight the fight, make sure they go to class, make sure they live right, and make sure they play hard. You know, there's only so many things you can do. So I remember I had everybody wanted to wear those damn visors, and then jersey numbers, and then tape on your shoes.
I'm a visor guy, and I wore gold cleats too, Stone.
At Alabama, you did?
No, heck no, not at Bama. Not at Bama.
So I think, you know, I love it. I love it because I think it teaches discipline. It teaches you that no one person's bigger than the team. However, pick your fights. You know, yeah. I agree with that one. Now, are they allowed to wear it? You know, because you can go on forever with all the rules. I got away from that. Had very few rules, but there was some, you know, gold cleats would have been a problem.
Saban didn't even want the dreads covering the numbers, so the boys with the dreads had to like tie their dreads up and like it was he ran a strict program, and that's basically what Cignetti's from. That same cloth.
Henry, right? He had the long dreads.
Yep. He had the dreads, but they were like tied up in like one bun, like in the back.
Mark, did you ever have dreads? Were you a dreads guy? Or?
Hell no, man. I grew my hair out one time, a little afro, man, and my stuff just stopped growing, man. So I said, bro, I wasn't ready to go through that ugly phase. That phase where it's like you don't know what you're doing with your hair yet. Like what that kid doing with his hair? You know, it's not long enough to braid yet, but it's not.
You called it the ugly phase?
Yeah, the ugly phase.
I guess I've seen a little bit of that.
You've seen the ugly phase.
Hey, you've
had a lot of kids with them little twisties.
Yep.
That's the ugly phase. Them little twisties. They ain't long yet. You know what I mean? Ain't got no hang time. So yeah, I ain't never did the dreads.
Hey, Coach, back to spring ball real quick. And I know every team is different. You know, different programs, different needs, different players coming in and out. But what were kind of some of the typical things that you had to pull out of spring ball?
Oh, you had to pull out depth, and not for the. And I, you know, as I more matured as a coach, there's certain guys that need it and certain guys that don't. And I didn't waste time with the guys that don't. After Mark Ingram, you know, Mark's freshman year, he needed spring ball. He needed to get used to the speed of the game. After that, yeah, he's got to play a little bit, but you're not going to put these guys in harm's way. And so I got much better at the efficiency of. I used to have reps. Why would Nick Bosa not, or Percy Harvin not? And after so many competitive reps, yeah, you don't, you know, there's certain parts of practice. I'm not putting that cat in harm's way. I'm just not going to do it. So, but the other ones at places like Alabama and Ohio State, spring ball is so big, you get to put those guys, and that's why I love spring games, Mark, because not for Mark Ingram, but for the new freshman. I want to see how that guy plays in front of 90,000 people, because you can say it's not that big a deal. The hell it's not.
It is.
I see guys shine in those situations, and I see other guys not.
Fold.
And I want to find out. And that's the beauty of, you know, Bowling Green in Utah, we didn't have that because you didn't have those giant crowds. So those are the biggest things. Guys that haven't played, fundamentals, depth, and then how do they perform in front of a crowd?
Mark, what was your first spring ball like?
My first spring ball, man, I just remember the fourth quarter program. It was miserable, man. We'd go through that conditioning. It was right before spring ball. So it's like spring training and conditioning, and we'd go in and we'd run curves, and we'd be in the middle doing all these type of dynamic drills, and then we'd run gassers. It was basically the mat drills that Coach had at Florida. We called them fourth quarter drills, and it was just that's my first recollection of spring ball.
I don't know what the curves are. You said you ran the
Curves.
curves.
It's like so if you know track, it's like 300 meters, and they set us up on like the corner goal line, this pylon on this side, and they'd have it'd go up the 100 yards. It would curve the end zone, and we'd run the next 100 yards. It was like a little 300-meter thing, and it was painful.
Coach, what are you cackling about over there on the curves?
I love it. I wonder if you see a lot of that still anymore, Mark. I don't know. And the quality, like we said, the quality of football on the field is spectacular right now. For some teams, it's awful.
We used to run the track, Stone, get to the bleachers, up the bleacher, down the bleacher, up the bleacher, down the bleacher, up the bleacher, down the bleacher, up the bleacher, down the bleacher to the track, sprint around the track, again, up the bleacher, down the bleacher, until they said enough was enough. And like that's my first recollection of spring ball was the fourth quarter program.
We got a lot of old school. A lot of old school on this show.
Old school.
Yeah, not the actual spring practice. It was that fourth quarter program. That if you got through that, you was good.
You was good. You was
good.
As long as the hair wasn't blocking the numbers. That was the Fresh Take of the Week presented by Wendy's. Get yourself a $4 Biggie Bite, $6 Biggie Bag, or an $8 Biggie Bundle right now at Wendy's. And coming up next, we talk to one of the strongest voices and minds in all of college basketball. The great Jay Bilas joins us next on the Triple Option. Welcome back to the Triple Option presented by Wendy's. Rob, Mark, Coach. We are joined now by one of the great voices, one of the great brains around college basketball, Jay Bilas. So, Jay, we're recording this roughly 24 hours or so after that UConn game winner over
Rob, you're
Duke.
going right there.
Well, no, I'm not going. I'm going there, but I'm not
Just
going
welcome
there.
the man and let him.
He's been doing this all day. He knows what's coming his way. So you've had time to digest that play. You know, where does that moment fall in the future talking points about college basketball and March Madness?
Oh, it's right at the top. And I was an assistant coach at Duke when Christian Laettner hit that shot against Kentucky in the Elite Eight in 1992 in Philadelphia. And honestly, the feeling I had watching that shot go in by Braylon Mullins was very much the same when Laettner hit that shot. The idea that, holy cow, that was impossible. Who thought that would happen? The funny part about the Laettner shot was we had ran that same play earlier in the season against Wake Forest. And Grant Hill threw some banana ball that took Laettner to the sideline. He wound up stepping out of bounds and we lost. And when Coach K called that same play again, I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Last time we ran this didn't go so well. But the Mullins thing, I don't know what the win probability was late in the game for UConn, but it was really low. And it required, good execution by UConn, but I don't think they executed their defense the way they wanted to. They fixed it and made it work. They wanted to foul. They wanted to foul either Dame Sarr or Patrick Gungba. And they were too far away from Sarr when the first pass was made after the inbound. But Duke didn't execute very well and gave him a chance. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was, John Shire had said that, it wasn't just one play. And that's true. There were a whole bunch of plays in the second half where Duke lost that 15-point halftime lead. They had 8 turnovers. And a number of those turnovers were live ball turnovers that UConn could take the other way. But when it's only the last play, when you get down to the last play, then that's the only one that matters. And it just shows like Duke does a drill. They've done it. We did it when I was a player almost every day. It's called 4-coach passing drill. And it's a pass and catch drill against full court pressure. And the way Duke teaches it, and whether it's Coach K or John Shire now, is, you have to come back to the ball to meet the pass to cut the distance down. And when you catch it, you're 2 feet on the floor. And then the coaches say catch and face, which means catch the ball and face the defense and then make a play. so you can assess where you are and what the defense is doing. And Caden Boozer caught it and caught it while he was turning, then dribbled it, and then left the floor and tried to make a pass in the air, and it got deflected. And, it's just those fundamental things that, especially a freshman under that sort of pressure, can make a mistake. And that was a mistake that was made that UConn took advantage of.
What's amazing, Jay, is in the college football world, that would be on my desk by the time I got to the office the next day. And I promise you, every coach in America is practicing that situation over and over and over again for years now, as I saw that unfold last night.
Yeah, and Coach, one of the things I thought about when afterwards you're thinking about all these things in your head about late game situations, and I thought about I think they called it the kick six, right? The Auburn Alabama thing, where
Relax.
where
Why
the
you bringing
field
up
goal
old
was
stuff,
short,
man?
and
Why you
then
bringing up old stuff, Jay?
yeah, well,
Jeez.
hey, everybody came with me, Mark. So,
Oh, I wasn't me. Shoot. No, that's all good.
but it's it's the kind of thing where I'm sure Saban and Alabama worked on that kind of thing, but in that sort of environment, if you don't execute exactly right, and stuff you work on. And I played the national championship game in 1986. We must have done 1,000 blockout drills that year, and we lost the game on a missed blockout. And, when you think these fundamental things that you do every day don't matter and they're just rote and you got to get through the drill, the reason you coaches made us do all that stuff. It matters.
Hey, Jay, I want to, years ago, I can't remember where me and you were at, and you were one of the first voices for the players, and you were actually way ahead of this game. And then I remember we played Alabama. We beat Alabama in the first playoff on our way to go play Oregon for the national title. And I made the comment about our players got zero money for their families to go watch them play, and made a big push for that. Here we are, 2026, and I've been invited to be on some of these committees, and I've been listening and learning a lot. I want to ask, is the current model sustainable, not just for the sport, but for all the other sports that this impacts? A couple of questions, because I got a feeling we can have a little dialogue here. Is the current situation sustainable without an enforcement arm that has guardrails for this?
Well, I think the answer is yes, because when the NCAA system has been claiming unsustainable for 100 years now, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and the media rights deals keep getting bigger and bigger, salaries keep shooting through the roof. And one of the things I found really interesting, Coach, is and look, I don't begrudge anybody anything. I've always felt there should be fairness, and I didn't feel like it was ever fair to the athlete. I don't think it's fair now. They're still being restricted and not able to bargain for their fair market value. But I find it contradictory that there are so many administrators up on Capitol Hill that are using that word. They're saying unsustainable with regard to player compensation. And yet LSU is paying close to $100 million in coach buyouts over the last few years, and nobody's saying unsustainable with regard to that. And my thing is, like, let each school do what they want to do. Let the players contract with the schools at arm's length, whether it's by collective bargaining or whatever mechanism they want to do, and let the players bargain for their fair market value. That way, if they sign multi-year contracts with a school, we don't have to worry about the transfer portal. You can put buyouts in them. You can bargain for whatever you want for each side, the players and or the schools. But look, we've had a system for a long time, and it's changed now, but it's still in a transition mode, is what I would call it, where we're dealing with the House settlement. We're under those, and I understand that coaches, administrators, presidents, they would like to have a better functioning system like you would have in the NFL or the NBA. But as you guys know, the NFL and the NBA they collectively bargain. So the players agree to salary caps, and they agree to certain work conditions. The college players don't get that. And until we have that sort of mechanism, and that's where if Congress really wants to help, that's where they can help. instead of giving the NCAA an antitrust exemption, which they're asking for, which is essentially going back to the old system where everything's unilaterally imposed on the players, what I would say is create a federal pathway for collective bargaining, or exempt athletes from the Fair Labor Standards Act and the National Labor Relations Act, where they can actually sign independent contractor agreements with the schools without being employees, if that's what the schools want. And that way a player staying at a school for a period of time, whether it's sign a 3-year contract or a 4-year contract, whatever, then that's the player's choice, just like it would be a choice for a coach to sign a multi-year deal with a significant buyout in it. Those are arm's length negotiations, but even those contracts are constantly violated. Like I found it really interesting, and I'm not blaming Will Wade or saying coaches shouldn't be able to do this. Like, this is the system. But a coach signs a contract and says, stay away from my players, then they're gone after a year. And nobody calls that tampering. Does anybody think that Will Wade just got a phone call after his season ended from LSU? That's not what happened. But nobody says tampering or poaching with regard to that. And once LSU takes NC State's coach, now NC State has to go out and take somebody else's coach. And then whomever they take, they're taking somebody else's, and talk about disruption throughout the whole system. So that's contradictory to the point of being hypocritical. And until we change that, we're gonna have these issues.
Jay, man, I've been following you, man. It's got to be like 15 years, man, on Twitter and X, man. And man, you used to make my mornings, bro. When you used to drop them bars, and you follow with "Gotta go to work," man.
Real,
Like, when we
recognize
getting it,
real.
you real recognize real, man. Where you get the bars from, and when we gonna get some of that flavor back, man? I feel like the world missing it, man. I used to open up my app in the morning. It would be some Jeezy bar, some rap bar, some banger, then I gotta go to work. When we getting that juice back, man?
Yeah, Mark, it was all Jeezy lyrics, and I started doing it almost by accident. Where I'd been talking, I think it was Hubert Davis when he was working with us before he went to North Carolina as an assistant. We were at Michigan State, and Draymond Green was wearing some headphones, and we asked him what he was listening to, and he said Young Jeezy. And Hubert asked if that was on my playlist, and I told him actually it is. And people did, I had TM 101, and people didn't believe me.
TM 101.
Yeah, so I was going back and forth on Twitter with people, and if I remember right, and it's been 12, 14 years, whatever, but I finally couldn't go back and forth with people on Twitter anymore, so because I actually had to go into my office, so I said I got to go to work on there, and it kind of caught on. So it's just one of these bizarre things.
That was a vibe, man, for sure. But then we saw in college football, man. We saw Indiana win it all, man, which we never thought that would happen in college football, being the losingest program in college football history just 2 years ago. Could we see the same for college basketball in the future?
I think we can, and I think we will. Like, this year is the first time in I don't know how long that we didn't have, Kentucky, UCLA, Indiana, some of these blue blood programs that none of them made the Sweet 16. Kansas was the other one. So what I see happening, and I'm not sure there's enough data yet, or at least I don't have the data to make a conclusion on this, but what I see is talent is being spread around more at the highest level. That doesn't mean that mid-major schools, like while Northwestern and Vanderbilt are getting better players than ever, but in large measure because of NIL, it doesn't mean that Western Michigan is getting better players than ever. And I'm sensitive to the mid-majors that are saying, wait a minute, we find a gem, an under-recruited gem. We develop this player, and the player turns out to be really good. And after his sophomore year, he goes to Michigan State and plays on the big stage and all that. But my thing with that, and believe me, I am sensitive to that. I have empathy for those coaches and programs. But you guys will probably remember a guy from Tennessee a couple years ago named Dalton Connect. So Dalton Connect, he went to Northern Colorado, played 3 years there. Nobody really ever heard of him. And I saw him play by accident. I was scouting an NBA prospect that Northern Colorado was playing against. Otherwise, I would have had no idea who he was. And he transfers to Tennessee. He was SEC Player of the Year, first-team All-American, got taken number 10 by the Lakers in the NBA draft. Does he not deserve the right to better himself? Because if Northern Colorado had gone to the tournament and won a game or two, his coach would have left. and that's okay. I mean, so I kind of understand where everybody's coming from, but I'm like, how much should the athletes carry on their shoulders? That's their burden, because when people say, and again, I'm empathetic to this too, but when people say, hey, football and basketball are paying for all these other sports, you're going, well, why do the athletes have to shoulder that? Like, I don't see any of the coaches and administrators saying, hey, we need to take a discount in our salaries because we need to help pay for these other sports. That doesn't happen. And I'm not sure it should necessarily happen with athletes. I think they deserve to bargain for their worth just like everyone else, because they're adults. They call it men's college basketball and women's college basketball and all that. They're adults.
Well, here's what we can agree on. There is no greater character in the world of college basketball than somebody that you and I both have had the privilege to work with, Bill Raftery. We've all been seeing the clip with him and Grant when the bucket goes in, right? And so give me quick story time with Bill Raftery, because those who've spent time with him live in a better world.
A legend, one of a kind.
Yeah, actually, that video of Bill and Grant Hill reacting to the Braylon Mullins UConn shot to beat Duke, I put out a tweet with that video saying, this is the exact same reaction when Raftery hears last call at a bar. He is legendary, man. Yeah,
he is legendary.
He could put him down now. He could put him down.
Oh yeah, I probably worked with him for about 12 years, I'd say, give or take, with doing Big Monday and with Sean McDonough in a 3-man booth, and it was one of the true joys of my life, honestly. And I told my wife, I said, look, when I get home on Tuesday, I want to be a zombie, because Raftery is going to want to go out after the game, and I'm not saying no. Like, I'm going. I don't care how much pain it causes me, because it doesn't cause him any pain. I don't know how
you can't say no to Raftery.
I don't know how he does it.
His
cannot
say no.
ability.
You cannot say no. But
No.
we had a thing one year. It was actually it was before the CFP, so I guess it was a BCS championship game was on a Monday night, and so we were doing a game in Milwaukee. It was a Marquette game, Big East game, back then. And so we got a group together to go to a steakhouse in Milwaukee called Moe's to watch the game after our game. And I got there first with Dave Pash, who was filling in for Sean McDonough, who was doing the game, the football game. And it was just about the time my eyes were going, and I needed readers, but I didn't have any with me. So the waiter says, hey, would you guys like to order any wine for the table, all that? And I said, yeah, how about a good cab? And he points something out to me because I couldn't see the menu. And so he recommends this bottle, and I said, perfect. So Pash says to me, he goes, Jay, that's $300 a bottle. And I was like, oh geez, I couldn't go grab the guy and say, hey, let's have something cheaper. So I told Dave, okay, we'll have that one, and then we'll order something else later. Well, Raftery got there with 4 or 5 friends, and we sat down, we started eating and watching the game and laughing, and I had forgotten about the wine thing. And so what Raft and I used to do was we would try to sneak our credit card to the waiter so we didn't have to haggle over the bill, and he beat me to it, and I didn't know. So the waiter brought the little leather billfold thing, bill in it. So Raftery grabs it, opens it up, and then goes, holy shit. And then almost crying, he says, would you mind ordering from the Irish side of the menu just once? And I was like, come on, Bill, give it to me. No, I got it. And he's been killing me about that ever since.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Hey, I want to ask you a
appreciate
question.
that story.
He's still fast with the credit card. He's still sneaky. He got me in New York during the Big East tournament. I'm like, old man still has it.
Oh, he still got it.
So good. All right. So you're going to pack your bags, head to Indy any day now. Final Four. What's your thoughts on who survives the 2 games and makes it to Monday's championship?
I thought that Arizona was the best team and had the best path when I looked at the bracket. Why people think that we know who's going to win. If I knew who's going to win, I'd live in Vegas and sit by the pool and have a drink in my hand all the time. But Arizona's legit there. But so is Michigan. Like those are, in my view, the 2 best teams. And then they're playing each other in the second national semifinal on Saturday. And a lot of people are going to look at that as the de facto national champion. Whoever comes out of that game is a national champion. And, experience shows me it doesn't work that way. because I've seen a number of times where people thought that and the team out of the other game winds up winning it. But Arizona is kind of old school, and they're an inside-out team. They don't shoot a ton of threes. What they do is they get to the foul line. They're going to beat you up physically and get to the rim. And if you're going to be physical with them, you're going to wind up fouling them, and they're going to spend the majority of the game at the foul line. They make more free throws on the season and throughout the tournament than their opponents even attempt. And in basketball analytics, the most efficient place to score on a basketball floor is the free throw line. So Michigan's going to have to play good defense without fouling, because if they put Arizona at the foul line, that's going to be advantage Arizona.
And the other one, UConn, Illinois, you got any leanings
UConn
in that one?
Yeah, I like UConn in the game. They played Illinois early in the season. I think Illinois is better now than they were then. But Illinois is really good offensively. They've got they've recruited very well internationally. So they've got a bunch of Eastern European guys that are very skilled and they can shoot it. They can all dribble, pass, and shoot. So they can spread the floor on you. And they are a low turnover, low foul team. So they do not put their opponents at the free throw line very often at all. And they don't cough the ball up. So they're not giving up. They're not letting their opponent play ahead of their defense very often. And their defense has improved over the last month and a half. And they've got a point guard as a freshman who, honestly, when he was in high school, like I see a lot of high school players, I'd never heard of him. He was ranked outside the top 175. And if he comes out in the draft, he'll be taken in the top 10. His name's Keaton Wagler. And I think if you were to do an NBA comp on him, it would be Tyrese Halliburton. He reminds me a lot of Halliburton when he was at Iowa State. Shoot it, can't speed the guy up. He plays at his own pace. Excellent passer, size, can rebound. He's the real deal. But they're young in spots. But I tend to favor, even though Illinois is favored in the game in Vegas, but I would favor UConn in that game. What UConn's done over the last several years, I mean, since 1999, UConn's won 6 national championships under 3 different coaches. And Danny Hurley won 2 in a row. And in those 2 years, in 2023 and 2024, they won 12 straight NCAA tournament games by double digits. No team in college basketball history has ever done that. Not John Wooden's teams, nobody. They're not as good this year. UConn's not as good as those 2 championship teams, but they're good enough to win this thing. They just need to shoot it a little better than they did against Duke.
That's an understatement. 4 quality programs. And this has been an elite level of play in college basketball. I felt this year. We've seen it the last couple of years in college football, where teams are allowed to be more mature. I think you're seeing that in college basketball. Across the whole spectrum of college basketball this year, I thought the play has been at an elite level. And Jay, you've been at the forefront on all angles of it. I think we covered everything, right? We had Raf, we talked politics, we got Wade, we got everything.
Talk Jeezy.
So, we got Jeezy in there.
We got some expensive wine on the menu.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Anytime,
Jay,
anytime
hey,
you guys need
we know how
wine,
busy you
take
are
my
this time of
glasses
year.
away.
Yes, thank you so much for your time. Safe travels to Indy. Enjoy the Final Four. And that does it for the Triple Option. Remember to follow, subscribe, rate us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as across social media. We are at 3X Option Show. Jay, thank you. Coach Hurley, thank you. And thank you, as always, to our sponsor, Wendy's. We'll see you next time on the Triple Option.